Welcome back, panel. We shall resume. We'll resume with item number 31, 496 Atlas Avenue. Committee is dealing with applicant's materials, revised plans submitted 24 August, 5 photographs received 20 May, correspondence received August 19th from the agent. We have commenting reports from Transportation Services, 2, and a staff report from Transportation Services dated August 13. In support, there's correspondence from addresses on Atlas Avenue, 494, Joanne Steinberg and Lee Steinberg, and also 492, Dimitri Litvin. We have correspondence in opposition from 505 Atlas, 498 Atlas, 517, 505, plus 234 Ava Road. Okay then. We'll ask the agent to join the meeting by stating your name, please. Sorry, moderator.
Hi, Mr. Stubbs, you are unmuted. Mr. Stubbs, if you are unmuted on your end, you can unmute yourself, increase your microphone volume, or check if your microphone is plugged in so we can hear you. Let me see if there's a call-in user. Hi, Mr. Stubbs, if you're able to...
Hello? Yes, can you hear me? Yes.
Hi, Mr. Stubbs, if you have something in the background, if you have anything playing in the background, please mute it so we can hear you. We were picking up some feedback in the background.
Yeah, it was my phone.
If you're on speaker, I suggest using a handset.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We're still picking up some feedback in the background. Again, if you have anything playing in the background which is causing the echo, you may mute that, or you can use your handset and not use the speaker option. I'll try to unmute. He left. Hi, Mr. Stubbs, are you there? Mr. Chair, I can try giving him a call again. Hi, Mr. Stubbs. I'm going to be giving you a call. If you can just answer. Through you, Mr. Chair, it seems we're having technical issues. Did you want to maybe hold it and then I can deal with it?
Okay. To those who are standing by for 496 Atlas, we are just trying to get in touch with the agent to get it started, so I'll ask you to stand by. The committee's going to put number 31 on hold for a few moments. We're going to move along to number 32 while the moderator continues to try to connect with Mr. Stubbs. So we'll go on to number 32, which is 124 DEWBOURNE. And 124 DEWBOURNE, we're looking at applicant materials, a 2010 Committee of Adjustment decision. There's an arborist report from Phoenix Tree Care. We have email correspondence from Development Planning and Review Transportation Services. There's a staff report from Urban Forestry. And there is correspondence in support from 118 DEWBOURNE, 166 DEWBOURNE, and 132 Chiltern Hill Road. In opposition, there's correspondence from 122 Kimborn Avenue, David Hager and Marcia Kaseman. So, there is also supplementary materials received in the form of previous Committee of Adjustment decisions. Correspondence in support from 148 DEWBOURNE, from 107 DEWBOURNE, and in opposition from 120 DEWBOURNE. So let's go to the speaker now.
Hello, Mr. Chair. My name is Enzo Lacasano. I am the agent for this application.
Very good. Good afternoon. Thank you. Okay, so you'll have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. That starts now. Please proceed.
Sure. When we started this process, we understood that there was a file that was submitted back in 2010, which ended up going to the OMB, and we realized that some of the variances that they were going for exceeded the norm for the area. So we did a study of a review of 211 files within the half-kilometer radius, which we narrowed down to 27 files that were on DEWBOURNE alone. Now, within those files, we looked at GFA, length of building, height, setbacks, and so on. So what we tried to do was reduce as many as possible. So that's why you'll notice that there is no length of building, there is no height, there is no landscape variance on this. So all we have is a GFA number of 0.69 from the 0.4 allowed. Now, the reason we came up with that number is when we did the study of the 27 files, we looked at a range of more than 50% of those files ranged from 0.695 up to a top range of 0.87. The latest one was 0.81, which was in 2018, and we had a 0.72 in 2020. With regards to the other variances, the side yards, we feel this is very minor, and in most cases, this is what the norm was, the way the houses sit currently in the area. And then the rest are purely technical variances. The width of the driveway was slightly increased by 0.25 meters. The width of the stair is more of an architectural feature where we're over by 0.84. These are all very technical. So the main one that we saw was the GFA, and we feel that this application is very suited for the area. It's very reasonable and is actually very unique since we don't have all the other variances that we found with the 27 files that we reviewed before starting this design process. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, we do not hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Agent. We'll now, I wonder if panel has any questions for the agent at this stage. No. Okay. We'll move on then to the registered speakers. And we'll ask the first, I believe it's 2 registered speakers together, to join us by stating your names.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Denitza Koeb. I'm a partner at the law firm Thompson Rogers.
Very good. And are you on your own, or is Charles Lefkowitz with you?
Sir, I am representing Mr. Lefkowitz.
I understand. Thank you. Okay. Very good. You have 5 minutes to address your concerns to the panel. Please proceed.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Just as a matter of housekeeping, I will be referring to the site plan and the arborist report. So if you can please have that at the ready to staff. We did not have an opportunity to file written submissions given the timing of our retainer, but my clients do object to the first 3 variances, specifically the proposed increase to the permitted height of the rear platform, the proposed increase to FSI, and the proposed decrease to the west side yard setback. Now, my client's land is 126 DEWBOURNE Avenue, so we're the property immediately to the west of the subject site. If I could take you to the site plan, just to highlight where that is. So the site plan, if you go to D plans, here we go, thank you very much. And if you can just zoom in very closely, that first site plan, so you can see that the property to the left is my client's property. Now, with respect to FSI, I will just point out that we support and echo the submissions that were made in the objection letter filed on behalf of 122 DEWBOURNE Avenue. I think that they concisely capture the issues, so I'm not going to spend much time other than to highlight the key takeaway, which is that the OMB denied a very similar proposal to increase FSI. Now, that decision did deal with an application under the former zoning bylaw, but the massing issue today is in fact greater, because if you look at the actual usable space and square footage, it's an increase from what was before the OMB. And the applicant has not provided any land use planning justification as to why it is appropriate to now veer from that OMB decision. And certainly there is nothing before you, in my opinion, that suggests the proposal is in keeping with the prevailing character of the neighborhood, which is a test that I'm sure you're all familiar with since the change to the city's OP. So that's all I want to say with respect to FSI. But I do want to spend some more time on the other variances. So if you look at the site plan and you look at the rear platform, that is being proposed to be at a height of 3.28 meters above grade. And then the second variance, which is the FSI, effectively pushes the deck and stairs further back into the rear of the property. And then the third variance, which is the west side yard setback, brings all of this closer to the property line. Now, what this does, taken together, they create a very real privacy issue and a concern for my clients, because you can see the stairs there leading up to this high deck, And the stairs would basically have a direct view into the rear of my client's property and the rear of the building. So that's the key privacy concern. Now, I want to take your attention, and I'm not sure if you can see it here unless we zoom in, but there is some hedging along that western property located on my client's property. Yes, thank you, right there. So there's a hedge there. Now, currently, this does provide some natural privacy screening, particularly during the summer months, right? So you can see that hedge. And that would, during the summer months, mitigate some of this concern. But if I can kindly ask staff to turn to the arborist report now. Would like to draw your attention to page 3 of that report. So if you can zoom in, you'll see here that the horn beams are not actually shown on this drawing. And in fact, the horn beams are not mentioned anywhere in the arborist report. But what you do see is in orange, that orange dashed line, the excavation setback. So the excavation setback, right, when you look at the reduced side yard setback, it will permit excavation very close to the property line.
I'm going to ask you to make your final comments, please.
Right, so the concern here is that you're going to be damaging the hedge, removing the existing privacy screening, and causing a whole heck of a huge privacy issue. It doesn't pass the minor test. It doesn't pass the current OP policies that require protection and preservation of privacy. And under the circumstances, we would respectfully request that the committee reviews the first 3 variances. Now, in the event that you decide to grant the variances, we would ask for conditions of approval to mitigate against the impact. And it would be 2 conditions of approval.
Your time is now up.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for this speaker panel? Go ahead, Mr. Solomon.
Yeah, I'd like to know what conditions is being suggested.
Certainly, thank you very much for that opportunity. That any portion of the new building which extends beyond the north wall of the existing dwelling at 126 DEWBOURNE Avenue must be set back by a minimum of 1.2 meters from the west property line. And what that would do is protect against all of the concerns with respect to damage to hedging. In addition, that the applicant be required to install and maintain hoarding to protect the hedging at 126 DEWBOURNE in accordance with the minimum protection distance required under the city's tree protection policy. And that would be to the satisfaction of urban forestry.
Thank you. Any further questions of the applicant? No. Okay then. We'll move on then to the next registered speaker and ask them to join us by stating their name, please.
David Hager, one of the owners of 122 DEWBOURNE Avenue, property immediately east of the 124 DEWBOURNE Avenue. I filed a letter of objection that contains my submissions, including 5 tabs that I have both bookmarked and hyperlinked for ease of reference.
Yeah, well,
This application.
So to tell us, Mr. Hager, how the application would impact you. That's what we're trying to get a sense of.
Well, if you go to page 2 of my written submissions, you'll see that the Ontario Municipal Board dealt with that same issue on exactly the same application. And they found, based on shadow analysis of the expert David Butler, that the addition would create substantially more shadows for our property and would loom over the decks of both 122 and 126 DEWBOURNE. And the OMB found that they were unacceptable adverse impacts. And if you go to page 2 of you will see the quote from the OMB decision, and I've highlighted what I've just referred to. We use the rear of our property to a great extent. frequent visits from children, grandchildren, friends. The proposed construction would create substantial additional shadows and loom over the deck of our property. And what's important to understand, I'll deal with the impact, because that's very important. This is the same height, length of building that was proposed in 2010, and I put in the 2009 plan so you could confirm that in fact in 2010 we were dealing with a 55-foot length proposed addition and a GFA of 0.986 then, now it's 0.992, same length, same height. The impacts found by the OMP for the same building have to be the same, but there is one difference. It's important because it may provide a way out for all the parties. That is that in the ensuing 11 years, there have been tremendous growth of tree 5s and 6, which are noted in the arborist report, that provides privacy between 124 and 1 DEWBOURNE. However, the proposal would show the destruction of trees 5 and 6, and if those trees go, we're at exactly the same impact that was said was a no-no by the OMB 11 years ago. I have bookmarked it. I would ask you to turn to tab 3 for a minute, please, of this submission. Tab 3 is a picture of 124 DEWBOURNE Avenue. It should be, it's also bookmarked. If you just click on the left, you'll be able to bookmark it.
Hi, can you say the attachment's name that you see bookmarked?
It should be picture rear view window, rear view.
Just keep scrolling past the OMB decision and you'll see a picture.
Yes, please do so. Keep going. That's it. That is the back of the property. What is highlighted in yellow is the basement, just so you know. This proposed construction would see a 3-story structure on all the new construction. It's not small, it is a large, massive building, and that is something to consider in terms of the impact, in terms of the size. Now, I have filed a forestry preservation report of Kunz Forestry. It was indicated that the trees between our properties, trees 5 and 6, are in good condition and they can be preserved. And perhaps the most important picture I have is right in the bottom of my submissions. If you scroll right to the bottom to figure 5, go right down to the very bottom. We'll keep going. Keep going. Keep going. The last document, the last page. You have to scroll. There it is. If you just go up, you'll see a blue line. The arborist had said these trees can be preserved and protected if the renovation is cut back by 13.9 feet. That would still put the reno beyond our property and into part of our deck. Yes, there'll be some shadows. Yes, there'll be some inconvenience, but it's a reasonable compromise to the complete destruction of the trees and the terrible effects that will be, at least from our perspective, will be affected. And so while I'm not opposed to renovation, I'm opposed to a renovation this size, and I'm suggesting that there should be a condition, if it's approved, that the length be cut back by 13.9 feet. I know I don't have to talk about the initial plan and preservation of trees and light and everything else because you all know them, but it is a factor.
Thank you. Your time is now up. Questions for this speaker? Panel members? No. Okay then. We'll now be going then back to the applicant for a chance to comment on these and rebut. So applicant, are you with us again?
I am here.
Okay, so you've heard the concerns then expressed. They
Yeah.
relate to, well, you've heard them, and height, FSI, the west side side yard setback, and also concern about tree health and preservation of trees in the rear yard. Please go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to say there is no height variance on the building. This is the height variance for the rear deck. And the deck is no longer than what our neighbor has now. We did discuss with the owner that we would provide some screening on the deck, opaque screening to provide that privacy issue, which we would typically do on a balcony or a rear deck. Now, with regards to those bushes that the first speaker spoke about, the reason why they're not shown is that under the Forestry Act, the arborist is only to show all items within 10 centimeters in size. Now, those are bushes, which again, I spoke to my client, and I think there has been discussion with that neighbor, is that if those bushes are damaged in any way, is that we would replace those bushes. We understand this is a sensitive issue with forestry, and that's why we started an early questions with forestry, submitted an application, submitted an arborist report to look at the different solutions, which we will do through forestry approval, which there'll be a condition for. With regards to the GFA that people are still referring back to the OMB of 2010, we are nowhere near that GFA under the new bylaw. I totally respect that in 2010 the GFA was 0.996. Under the new bylaw we're at 0.69, and very much so based on the 27 decisions since then, that we are well within and smaller than some of the decisions that were from 2000, actually from 2008 all the way to 2020. With regards to the side yard setback, the current building is at 0.9, and so is the neighbors is at 0.9. And when we reviewed those other applications, the 0.9 meters seemed to be the norm, the way these buildings were situated. We did respect the other side at 1.2 meters because we were trying to get more distance for those trees. Now those trees are invasive, and I know we keep talking about trees, and I know Committee of Adjustment really has no jurisdiction about trees, but we did look at pushing the east side further away in order to create maybe more of a buffer zone, and maybe we may have to cut back that rear part of the building in order to salvage the tree. But again, we are at this stage right now. We do have a plan B if we have to deal with the neighbors and forestry. But I feel that this application is very suited for the area and very reasonable. That's it, sir.
Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want some clarification. The owner of 122 suggested in their written submissions that the actual built form of what is being proposed is the same as what was proposed previously. I recognize the point about that floor space index is calculated differently under this bylaw. I just want to understand from you whether or not that statement from 122 is accurate in terms of the built form of the structure that's being proposed versus a previous application. And also, you've spoken about the extensive research that you've done with respect to other properties in the neighborhood. You have spoken about the new bylaw versus the old bylaw. You just made a point about the decisions ran from 2008 to 2020. for the benefit of the committee, can you give us any precise details of applications or variants that were made and were approved subsequent to bylaw 569 being put in place? I would appreciate that just for context so I can understand.
Yes, of course.
Saying, please.
Yep. So the first one we looked at was 138 DEWBOURNE. That was under 2015. So what I'll do is I'll give you the list of the ones that were under the new bylaw, which was enacted in 2013.
Sorry, can you answer my first question first?
With regards to the
Is the built form of what it's
yeah,
being
so the
proposed
built
now?
form, the built form is the same length but not the same width. Because I think initially at the OMB they were looking for 3-foot setbacks on both sides. This one has the 3-foot setback on the one side, so it's not as wide as the original submission, but the depth is the same at the 55 feet, which is still within the bylaw. And even under the old bylaw was still 55 feet. Now with regards to the decisions, everything under the 569 was number 138. These are all DEWBOURNEs. 138 DEWBOURNE was approved in 2015 at 0.7. 179 DEWBOURNE in 2014 was approved for 0.85. 163 DEWBOURNE in 2014 was approved for 0.68. In 15 DEWBOURNE in 2013 at 0.79. 2018 at 164 DEWBOURNE was approved for 0.81, and number 6 DEWBOURNE in 2020 was approved for 0.72. So like I said, the newer developments, this is well within at 0.69 within the development of the area. And I know the OMB was 12 years ago. This is 2021, and this is what we're dealing with.
Any further questions for the applicant? Okay. I just have one that I wanted you to clarify. So you mentioned with respect to your minor variance number 3, west side yard setback.
Correct.
Did you say that that's an existing condition?
The existing house currently sits at 0.91.
And you're gonna your extension is going to maintain the 0.91. Is that it?
Well, it's not an extension. It's a brand new house, but it will maintain the 0.91 on that side.
Of course. Okay. So we are starting again, rebuilding, and so the 0.91. Right.
We're
It
basically
represents
grandfathering in the same distance.
Yeah. Okay. I get it. Okay. Any other questions? No. Okay, then at this stage we can take the application into committee for discussion moving toward a motion. We are now in committee on this one. So I'd look to panel members for some thoughts on the application. Mr. Reed, go ahead, please.
I'm happy to start off. This is a big house that's being proposed, but I do appreciate the fact that the applicant has made efforts to comply with a significant portion of the zoning bylaw. I mean, the only kind of meaningful variance from my perspective that's being requested is FSI. Everything else is quite minor with minimal impacts. I do understand the concerns of the neighbors regarding privacy in the backyard. So I'm going to be supporting this application, but also I would like to see privacy screening on both the east and west sides of the rear deck.
Thank you very much. Mr. Solomon, please go ahead.
So when I look at the OMB decision from 2010, I see 3 main issues that were raised, and I don't see anything that has changed during that period of time. The issues were privacy, shadowing and overdevelopment. And what I see from the current proposal is that the development would extend far behind the adjacent houses on either side, a rear deck with stairs in the rear yard almost 10 feet above ground, and ultimately the same issues arise with the current proposal as compared to what the OMB's decision reviewed back in 2010, and I don't see that anything has changed.
Thank you very much. Ms. Hayes?
I'm struggling with this one. I think for me it comes down to impact, and I think that the size of the house plus the deck plus the stairs, the height of the deck, I think the impact is too much. You know, combined with, yes, the side yard on the west side is going to be maintained, but the house is much larger. I don't feel I can support the application.
Thank you. And for my part, from what I've read and heard on this application, I too think that the application is not desirable, it's not minor, and so I would not be supporting it. I will look now to panel members for a motion on the application, please. Mr. Salomon, please go ahead.
I'll move a motion to refuse the application.
Is there a second? It is seconded by Ms. Hayes. So moved and seconded to refuse the application. All those in favor of that motion, show of hands, please. And those opposed to the motion, let the record show Mr. Reed opposed. The motion is carried and the application is thereby refused. The panel moves along to number, well, we'll see if we can, are we ready to go back now?
Mr. Chair, I believe I have Mr. Stubbs on the line. We can try to make sure his audio is fine now.
Okay, the panel will go back now to number 31, which we had put on hold.
Hi, Mr. Stubbs. Just checking if your audio is okay. Are you able to hear us? And if you can speak? Try his phone. Hi, Mr. Stubbs. Your phone is unmuted on our end. Are you able to speak? Mr. Stubbs, if your phone is muted on your end, please unmute it. Yeah, it doesn't.
Okay, then. We're going to put number 31 on hold once again, and we'll move along to number 33, which is 417 St. Clarence Ave. And on this application we have before us those materials as submitted by the applicant. Ask the applicant now to join us by stating your name, please. Applicant.
Hi, this is Ozran Stambuk. I'm the applicant.
Very good. Good afternoon. I'm going to check with my fellow panel members if they'd like to hear a presentation or perhaps put questions to you. Panel members, on number 33, two minor variances. Do you have any questions for the applicant? If anyone then is ready to move to a motion, that'd be good. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
I'm happy to move a motion of approval for this. I think this house is shorter than its two neighbors, and it's going up on the third story and still remaining shorter. So I think because of that, any kind of negative impacts are satisfied with its design. So I move to approve with no conditions.
Thank you. It is seconded by Ms. Hayes. So, moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And there's a unanimous vote to carry the motion and to approve that application number 33. Thank you. We move on to number 34, 60 Kimborn. On 60 Kimborn, there are those materials submitted by the applicant. There are 3 photographs of the property submitted by the agent. And there is a staff report from Community Planning dated 25 August. So, on 34, we'll ask if the agent will join us by stating your name, please.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Colin Lightbourne. I'm the agent for the owners of number 60 Kimborn Avenue. The application before you is to maintain the existing soft landscaping in the front yard. This condition has existed since 2016. None of the neighbors have lodged a complaint against the
Okay, Mr.
property.
Okay, just hang on a second,
Yeah.
Mr. Lightburn. I'm just going to ask my panel members if they'd like to have a presentation or whether they might prefer to put questions to you. So let's just check with them. Panel members, any requests for a presentation? Any questions for the applicant? Mr. Salomon, go ahead. Ms. Hayes next.
Yeah, my question is, why should the asphalt driveway be maintained as is?
In the files, as the chairman mentioned, there are a number of photographs of the front yard of number 60 Kimborn. In addition, I've also included a photograph of the property directly across the street from 60 Kimborn, and their address are 61 and 61A Kimborn Avenue. And as you can see from the photograph, there is no soft landscaping on either of the 2 lots. In addition to that, number 59, which is adjacent to 61A, their driveway abuts the south side of number 61A. Therefore, that whole area is hard landscaping. Compared to what my client is asking for in relationship to what is currently existing at 61 and 61A, the variance is minor in comparison to what you see in the photographs across the street.
Okay, we have another question for you from Ms. Hayes. Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
A similar question. I see that the asphalt is actually wider than the curb cut. I don't disagree that others may have chosen to pave their front yards, but that doesn't mean it was permitted. So is this to allow, why is it necessary? Because it looks like you can now park 4 cars on that driveway.
Only 3 can be parked on the driveway. I can't answer what the client did by not complying with the zoning bylaw. I can only state that she requests that the committee approve the application to maintain the existing soft landscaping. This only came about as a result of the building inspector coming by and looking at the property. and I can understand where my client is coming from. If the building inspector is going to penalize my client, why did he not penalize the neighbors across the street? And their lots, it was a single lot that obviously was subdivided into 2 lots, and therefore the soft landscaping requirements would be much greater than what is presently existing on my client's property.
Okay, just if I may at this stage then, for the applicant on this application, and to remind panel members, the Committee of Adjustments' job on these applications when we're asked to look at existing conditions is this. We are asked to think of the application as if the construction had not taken place, as if this was coming to us as a proposal, and to ask ourselves in that frame of mind, would we have voted to approve this proposal, or would we have voted to refuse it? Would we have seen it as desirable and minor, or would we have elected to see it as worthy of being refused? So that's the frame of mind, applicant, that the committee has to approach this on. You're asking the committee to legalize an existing condition, but they have to come at it as if it hasn't even been constructed and ask themselves if they would approve it, were it to come to them as a proposal. Any further questions for the applicant?
I can understand the committee's point of view, but we have to deal with the fact that if the city's going to
Excuse me.
penalize...
Excuse me.
Yes?
You're repeating yourself now. I just asked the panel members if they have any further questions. At this stage, I'm going to take this application into committee for a motion and for discussion if they'd like to. So we're now in committee on this application committee, and we can have discussion if you like, unless someone is ready to move to a motion on the application. Mr. Salmon, go ahead.
Yeah, just some comments. I do have concerns with the amount of asphalt on the front yard. There's very little soft landscaping, and where is water supposed to run off to? There's very little permeable material for which water on the site can drain. So I could not support this application.
Right. Ms. Hayes?
When you pull up the, missed it, the survey or the, what drawing number am I looking at? Drawing number A2. In terms of what is actually between the house and the property line, there isn't a huge amount of area left within there to improve the soft landscaping. I think that a lot of the issue here is the hardscape beyond the property line to the sidewalk. That's the challenge.
Mr. Reed, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with Nimrod's perspective, and I mean, I think it's always hard to have these things come back after the fact, but I think the photographs that were supplied by the applicant are quite selective, to use a word. I mean, looking at the site in Google Street View, we see an additional at least 5 feet of asphalt that's not shown in those photos. So I think that if this were to come before us just not constructed, I would have zero concerns in denying it. So I'm going to be denying this application.
And for my part, I'm thinking of it in that light too. This comes to me as an unconstructed proposal, asking for okay to build at 10% soft landscaping where 75 is required. And I more and more am of the opinion that each lot must do its best to absorb its share of stormwater. No lot should be allowed to disperse its stormwater to other properties or the road. And so I would not have been supporting this application either, had it come to us. Ms. Hayes.
I would just say one more thing, just in terms of, you know, it's very obvious that the curb cut that was put in place with the approval of the permit is not as wide as that driveway. There is also a garage on this property. And I think the neighborhood context and what's there, the ability to park that many vehicles is not envisioned. And you know, I understand the comments that have been made with respect to other properties, but that's not before us. And if someone else doesn't comply, doesn't mean that there should be no compliance. And yes, it's up to the city to take actions where they feel it's necessary, but I can't support the application.
I'll look to panel then for someone to put forward a motion on this application. Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
I'll move a motion to refuse the application.
Is there a second? It is seconded by Mr. Reed. So, motion moved and seconded to refuse the application. Those in favor of that motion, show of hands, please. The motion is carried unanimously and the application is refused.
Mr. Chair, going back to item number 31, I believe I have the applicant on the line.
Very good.
Hopefully.
So we'll move back now to number 31, where we've been having some difficulty connecting with the applicant. And we'll ask the applicant at this stage, please, to join us and state your name.
My name is Robert Stubb. Can you hear me?
We do hear you, Robert. Good afternoon.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry for the issues with connecting with you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Okay.
It's Robert Stubbs. I'm the agent for the owner.
Very good. Robert, just stand by for a moment. So do we still have
Okay, thank you.
Do we still have a registered speaker standing by?
Through you, Mr. Chair, Nancy Levy has not responded. I've left her multiple calls and
Okay.
emails. Furthermore, Mr. Tamburi has indicated that he can no longer no longer join.
Okay.
And I have Shelby Zolodek on the line.
Okay, in that case then. Mr. Stubbs, you'll have 5 minutes to present your application to the panel. Please proceed now.
Yes, okay, thank you. The owner proposed to demolish an existing bungalow, keeping the front and north side foundation walls, and to build a two-story dwelling. I propose 5 variances. The proposed FSI is 92%, and the allowable is 80. The north side setback is 0.35 meter. That's an existing non-conforming condition. The front yard soft landscaping is proposed to be 58%, whereas the minimum allowable is 75. And the last 2 variances have to do with parking. 1 parking space is required, and as no parking spaces are provided, the owner has applied for a license for a parking pad. I was told that this is acceptable to the city. The neighbors located at 494 Atlas and 498 Atlas are both in favor of this application.
Thank you very much. And
thank you.
Okay, just I'm going to do something which I should have done as we began, which is to outline for those listening the materials that we're dealing with here. On this application, the committee has the material submitted by the applicant. And there are revised plans submitted by Mr. Stubbs on 24 August. There are 5 photographs which he submitted on May the 20th. Plus we have correspondence from Mr. Stubbs on the 19th of August. We have commenting reports and comments from Transportation Services, 2, and also a staff report from Transportation Services. And then, as I think I did outline this material before. And then we have correspondence both in support and in opposition, which I outlined when the application came up the first time. Correspondence in support from 494 and 492, and correspondence in opposition from 505 Atlas, 498, 517, 505, plus 234 Ava Road. Okay. Let us, any questions for Mr. Stubbs at this stage? Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify, was variance number 3 being removed? Because I thought there was some email from the applicant indicating they were.
Yes, that is correct.
And the other question I have is, why is a side yard setback of 0.35 meters appropriate when you're building a brand new house?
The owner wanted to use the existing non-conforming setback of the existing house, and that also gives him the 4-foot side yard on the south side.
Yes, but why is that appropriate for the neighbor on the side where you're only providing the 1.1 foot side yard? And it's a proposed 2-story house. How is that appropriate?
Well, I suppose I'm just really going by the neighbor who is 494 Atlas Avenue. I think I submitted a photograph showing that house. It was on the front view photo. I don't know if you have it there.
Let's see if we can find it.
But they have a similar side yard setback on the north side.
You understand that when a house is torn down, that the setbacks of the previous house no longer count. We're dealing with new construction, and the new construction is subject to the bylaws.
Okay, well, actually, the owner wanted to maintain the existing foundation wall on the north side. Given that it is existing.
I just want to, okay, I'll just ask the Deputy Secretary Treasurer a question on that. It isn't a matter of maintaining the foundation wall, it's a matter of maintaining the wall itself, is it not?
It's a building code issue, and yes, it's 50% of the walls of the house. If it can be maintained, then it's an addition. If it's not, if it's less, then it'll be a new build. That's
Okay.
a building code issue.
Right.
But it is walls.
It is walls, yes. So applicant, I just checked there with the Deputy Secretary Treasurer, and it isn't just the foundation walls that have to be maintained, it's the actual walls above ground that have to be maintained for what you're discussing there to apply. Basically, you're talking about new construction, which is subject to the bylaws. Okay, here's the photographs, I think. Good.
Yes. That's the existing north wall at the rear of the house. And the south wall and the front.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any further questions for
Now,
the
I had,
Excuse me, applicant.
oh, I'd just like to add, I had originally applied for this to be a renovation and maintain the north and the front walls, but was told that too many changes were proposed for the front of the house for it to be considered a renovation.
Okay, thank you for that. That's good information. Okay, let us then go on to, we have a registered speaker, I believe, still standing by. Do we not? Let's go to that registered speaker now and ask them to join us by stating their name, please.
Hi, Ms. Solodek, you are unmuted. If you're able to speak, please speak into the microphone, unmute your microphone on your end, or increase your microphone volume.
30 seconds remaining.
Okay. I guess they're not on the line then.
Okay. So at this stage, we have no registered speakers?
I believe so. We don't have any more speakers then. Let me just confirm. Yep. I can try getting Shelby another call, but it seems like she's.
Well, let's give it one more try.
Call. Please leave a message and I'll call you back.
Mr. Chair, it seems like it's going to
Okay.
voicemail. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to, for the benefit of everyone, I'm just going to look through, we have a number of letters in opposition on this, so I'm just going to bring some of the issues that people are concerned about. Variances 2 or 3, which relate to the side yard setback. Concern about the parking, that there's no parking spot is being provided. However, the site plan clearly shows a type of parking pad at the southeast corner. Even though the request may seem to be of a minor nature, collectively the minor variances exceed the general intent of the official plan. Okay. Very good, okay. So, at that stage, in that there are no registered speakers to speak, applicants, I'll ask you if you have any further questions for the panel members. Any further questions for the applicant? And if we have none, we can take the application into committee for discussion and moving toward a decision, please. Okay, we're now in committee on this. Then go ahead, Mr. Solomon.
Yeah, just as a comment, my only concern really relates to the side yard setback, and I have a concern that 0.35 meters for a new build is just perhaps too small, and a wider setback, not necessarily the required 1.2 meters, but something in between would be more appropriate.
Further thoughts?
Nimrod, seems to be a new build across the street that looks like it basically has no side yard on the one side. A two-story with an integral garage. I was just trying to refresh my memory, so I was just looking at Google Street View.
The lot is only, it's only 8.69 meters wide. So you can see why the applicant would be trying to maximize width.
Well, and also right next door, 494, new build.
I think it's also the historical pattern of lotting in this area, that the house is close to one side and then gives
Yeah.
more space on the other side. So they're kind of staggered for that right of way.
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments from anyone?
I'm happy to bring a motion.
Please go ahead.
I think this is a reasonable proposal and mimics what's happened next door, and kind of the larger pattern of redevelopment in the area. Additionally, the fact that the neighbors are supportive of this is a positive development. So I would move that the application be approved as amended. That's with variance 3 removed, and subject to the conditions in the transportation report on August 13th.
Is there a second to that? There is. Ms. Hayes seconds. So it is moved and seconded to approve the application as described by Mr. Reed. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is unanimously carried, and the application as amended with those conditions is approved. Thank you. And we can now move forward to application number 35, 42 Woody Crest. And on 42 Woody Crest, before the panel are the applicant's materials, plus a cover letter from the agent dated 20 August. And in support, there are 7 form letters from owners and occupants at 45, 47, 52, 54, 64, and 57, and 75 Woody Crest. Plus correspondence in concern or interest from Karen McEnroy and Aaron Smith at 49 Eaton Avenue. Okay then, applicant. Join us please by stating your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Hatch. I'm representing the owners at 42 Woody Crest Avenue.
Good afternoon.
So what you have before you is a modest 2-story addition to the rear with a ground floor deck.
Excuse me, Jonathan, just hang on a second. I just was...
My apologies.
Just, you're fine, just hang on for a moment. I want to check with the moderator. Moderator, there's still no registered speakers in opposition here. Okay then. So what I'm going to do first, Jonathan, is ask the panel their preference. Would you like a presentation panel, or do you have questions for the applicant? I'm not seeing any, so that being the case, panel members, we can take this into committee for a motion, please. Go ahead, Ms. Hayes.
Thank you. Having reviewed all the material on file, and looking at the variances being requested, I don't think what's being requested is at all out of character with what currently exists in the neighborhood. The concern noted by 49 Eaton is really more of a construction issue, and please make sure to not rip any of the wires down while trucks are going through, which is a main concern. But I think in terms of the variances, I'm satisfied that they meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act and they're appropriate, and that would be my motion with no conditions if my colleagues don't have any further comment.
Thank you. Is there a second? It is seconded by Mr. Reed. So moved and seconded to approve without condition. Those in favor, show of hands, please. That motion is carried. The application is approved. Panel moves on to number 36. .424 Shaw Street. We're looking at the applicant's materials. There is a report from Urban Forestry and correspondence in support from 422 Shaw next door. So we'll ask the applicant to join us now by stating your name.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Galbraith. I'm a planner here on behalf of the application.
Good afternoon to you. Okay. Panel members, would we like a presentation? Do you have any questions? I'm not seeing any. So, I have just one question with respect to the front yard setback. On the surface, it looks problematic, 0.53 where 2.49 is required. Could you explain that, please? Why I should consider that to be minor?
This will simply legalize the existing enclosed front porch.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Very good. Panel members, we can take it into committee, and I'll look to panel for a motion, please. Mr. Solomon.
Yeah, I think the variances are minor in nature. There are other houses on the street that have enclosed the front porch. So I would move approval of the variances with urban forestry conditions 1 and 2.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Reed. So it is moved and seconded to approve, subject to forestry 1 and 2. Those in favor, show of hands, please. Unanimous vote to carry the motion and to approve the application, subject to forestry. And panel is now on number 37, 19 Innes Avenue and 177 Caledonia Road. Okay, and we shall ask the applicant here to join us by stating your name.
Hello, my name is Michael Vanny. I'm a senior planner with Weston Consulting, with the agent on the app.
Very good. Good afternoon, Michael. And Michael, you'll have 5 minutes to present your application to the committee. Please proceed now.
Great. So I guess thank you, everybody. As I said, my name is Michael Vanny. I'm a senior planner with the Weston Consulting Group, and I'm here to speak to you about 19 Hines Avenue, or commonly referred to as Parcel A. Throughout
Michael?
the materials that are
Michael, your voice is just a touch soft. If you could increase your volume just a little bit, please, that'll help us. Thank you.
Sure, how's that?
That's good, thank you.
Great. Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, it's 19 Hines Avenue, commonly referred to as Parcel A throughout most of the materials that's been in the review package and previously submitted to the city. So the minor variance application before you today is seeking development permissions to increase the maximum allowable building height for the 13 units fronting onto Hines Avenue. The site is subject to a site-specific zoning bylaw 790/2015, which was approved back in 2015 by the previous owner. And that was to permit the development of a larger site area to include 41 dwelling units, in particular 3 row houses and 38 semi-detached units, which were also included on a rear laneway network and a public parkland conveyance at the southeast corner of Hines Avenue, Caledonia. So all units are 3 stories in height and include rear access garages from the internal laneway network. The development approvals were implemented through the approval of the zoning bylaw and a previous consent application, again back in 2015, which established 3 different development blocks, one fronting the Caledonia piece, one fronting Ines, and one fronting McRoberts. The application before you today, as I said, is only for parcel A, which is, I guess, units 29 to 41 that are at the top of your screen, fronting onto Ines. The site-specific zoning bylaw that was approved permits a maximum building height of 11.7 meters for parcel A, which is measured from grade to the highest point of the roof surface. The site-specific bylaw also allows a 0.5 meter projection beyond this limit for a parapet to a maximum height of 12.2 meters. The proposal before you is seeking to allow private rooftop terraces on these units that front onto Ines, which are permitted in the parent bylaw. A variance is required to allow the additional building height needed to the top of the proposed exit stairwell. That's required to provide the access to the roof surface. No other variances are required in order to permit the terraces. The stairwell access located on the roof has an area of only 86 square feet and does not include any habitable or usable space. Thus, the development retains its 3-story building composition. The roof terrace will include the access stairs, a vinyl screening, privacy screening between the units, and a 1.2 meter parapet around the edge of the roof surface. In order to permit the development, a maximum permissible building height of 12.57 meters is required and will be measured from grade to the highest point of the roof surface, as was contemplated in the previously approved site-specific bylaw. So the additional height is a difference of only 0.14 meters to 0.87 meters, so less than a meter. And it does change given the varying grade from east to west on the site. When factoring the additional 0.5 meter allowed for the parapet, the additional height is only 0.37 meters, which is slightly more than 1 foot. The architect has worked on the design to minimize the height impact of the stairwell through the parapet screening and reductions in the ceiling height for the stories below. The additional height will not create shadowing impacts on properties to the north of Ines Avenue or the east side of McRoberts, given the width of Ines and McRoberts. So I've reviewed the staff report and are of the opinion that the minor variance application meets the 4 tests outlined in the Planning Act, as it meets the general intent and purpose of the official plan, given the uses are permitted. It meets the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw, is desirable and appropriate for the development of the property, as it will allow additional private amenity space to the future residents of these units. And it is minor in nature, being only 0.87 meters above the current zoning regulations. And I'm happy to answer any questions of the committee.
Thank you very much. Question from Ms. Hayes. Go ahead, please.
Just one point of clarification, if I may. I noticed when I was reviewing the submissions on page 6 of your submissions, you were talking about a construction tolerance. Are you asking that are you looking to amend the variances to a low of 12.5 and a high of 13? I just want that clarification, please.
So we had originally asked in our submission to allow for a bit of a tolerance, just given construction realities of a potential few centimeters or inches that the building may be higher, just to allow for that flexibility. I'm sure the committee is aware of variances that have come forward after the fact and remedy those construction issues. If it wills the committee to allow a little bit of tolerance, we would certainly be happy to accept it. If the committee wishes to keep to the PPR, which measured to a maximum height of 12.57, that's okay as well, but we would appreciate a little bit more of the tolerance if possible.
Mr. Solomon, go ahead.
Yeah,
The rooftop terrace, does it go over top of the entire roof?
Yes, it goes over the entire roof except for the portion where the stairwell will be, which is 86 square feet approximately.
And so, just generally, what is the area, the square foot area then of that rooftop terrace?
Let me pull it up for you here. It's approximately, just quickly check. It's approximately 58 square meters, minus the square footage for the access stairwell.
So that's about 500 square feet approximately.
Approximately, yeah.
And was there any thought given to pushing back the rooftop terrace away from the front of the homes, because there are two-story houses directly across the street, so that if there's any noise, it's playing on the roof, that just doesn't carry right over?
Not particularly. The existing zoning bylaw and the permissions already permit up to 3 stories, which is already slightly higher than the buildings across the street. Given the width of Hines Avenue and McRoberts, they're both 20-meter right-of-way, so there's sufficient distance between the proposed development and the units on the other side of the street, which does provide that separation. There could be an opportunity of incorporating some elements to distance space, but in terms of noise, it wouldn't really make much of a difference from a proximity perspective.
I guess there doesn't seem to be much outdoor playground area for these units. So I guess, is the roof then serving as that outdoor area for recreation for the residents of each unit then?
Yeah, so for parcel A, there is a limited amount of private amenity that was originally approved in the zoning bylaw. There is a small terrace above the garage here, but it is fairly small compared to what was approved for the properties fronting McRoberts and Caledonia that have rear yard space. These units front right onto Hines, and it's basically just the garage at the back, and then a small, little bit over 2-meter front yard, which isn't really a private usable amenity space. So when the client went to market, there was a lot of demand for rooftop terraces, so they were incorporated, or hopefully to be incorporated on these 13 units.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We'll move now to the first registered speaker speaking in opposition. And is that Sarah, moderator? Well, we'll ask that first speaker to join us by stating your name, please.
Sarah Gibson.
Good afternoon. You have 5 minutes to address your concerns to the committee. Please go ahead.
Hi. Okay, so I am a homeowner with my husband directly across the street on Innis Avenue, in one of those 2-story houses that you were referring to. I'm going to actually defer to my husband, and he is here with me, and he's going to take over on my behalf.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. After hearing the proposed variance from the applicant here, we have a few reasons for concern. He mentioned there is a 20-meter setback, but based on...
Hi, if the speaker can mention his name for record.
Oh, this is Jean-Baptiste Nguyen, Nguyen.
Thank you.
And in regards to, yeah, oh, you're welcome. The applicant mentioned that there is a 20-meter right-of-way, but in comparison to the other houses in the neighborhood, the setback of the actual homes is much closer to the property line. This is also much more prevalent, especially for the properties on Caledonia Avenue, where they have the additional boulevard that is on city property. And the proposed development on Innis is actually the high point of the elevation of this neighborhood for the entire development. So the additional height increases on this will have the most impact for our properties on the north end of Innis compared to the rest of the development. Originally, the current bylaws for the maximum height for this area is 11 meters. So in 2015, they've already granted them an additional variance to this and improved them to 11.5 meters. So though this current application is only an increase from the previous approved one, if you look in comparison to the actual bylaws now, you're looking at an increase of over almost 2 meters. We're looking at a 13-meter proposed maximum height. This thoroughly impacts our property, not only in potential loss of sunlight, but loss of privacy, and it impacts noise as well, because now you have an open space that there is no control of containment of noise on the rooftop patio. He mentioned that there's a lack of outside amenities, but if you look at the elevation plans, yes, there is a small rooftop terrace above the garage, but then also they have a balcony on the 3rd-story building. So there is an additional outdoor space currently that is approved. In addition, there is a outdoor playground that if they're looking for outdoor space, there is a playground at the corner at Innis and Caledonia that is being built as part of the development. So our biggest concern is that this will impact to our access to sunshine, privacy, and most importantly, it impacts the curb appeal of the neighborhood. We are typically brick houses, 2 stories, and even though this is technically a 3-story development, with this rooftop patio, you're essentially building a 4th story, even though it's not technically classified as a story for that rooftop terrace. And also this sets a precedence for any future development in our neighborhood. There are lots of single detached homes and bungalows, and we've seen it in all the rest parts of Toronto. They're being bought out and being torn down and building these new superstructures. And we're hoping that, you know, the committee will take our concerns seriously and realize that any additional changes to this will thoroughly impact the overall look of the community and impact all the residents, particularly the ones on Innis Avenue on the north end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions for this speaker panel members? Okay, thank you. We'll go now to the next registered speaker.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the next registered speaker, Dominic Ventris, is not with us. I believe there's a call-in user. I can confirm.
Okay, is Corey Meehan with us?
Yeah, I just want to confirm if this calling user is Dominic. 1 second.
Take your time. Go ahead.
Hi, calling user 416-738. Are you Dominic Ventris?
Yes.
Okay. He's here.
Okay, very good. Okay, you are Dominic.
Want to raise the same concerns that were
good afternoon.
Previously, good afternoon.
Yeah. Okay.
Just want to raise the same concerns from the previous speaker, John Baptiste. Just as a longtime member of the community here on Innis, over 40 years, yeah, I believe this would impact a lot of the same issues that were raised by him, especially on the privacy side. Thank you again.
Thank you. And so what I will say to the speakers, I'll make this request, is that we are concerned with the impact this will have on you and your enjoyment of your property and your neighborhood and your block. So do try to deal with and tell us about the impacts this will have. And there's no need to repeat in particular things that previous speakers have said. The panel is really looking for a sense of the impact on you, and the repetition actually doesn't work to further your purpose. Next speaker then will be
Hi,
Hello,
Miss.
this is Corey Mead speaking. Can you hear me?
Yes, we do. Corey, you're with the panel. You have 5 minutes to address your concerns to the panel.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. First of all, I just want to point out this is my first time on any adjustment call, so please bear with me, and if anything requires any clarification or follow-up, just let me know. Where I'll start off is, obviously, things are moving pretty fast in terms of when the application went up to where we are today. But in that time, I've gone around and surveyed the neighbors who would be most impacted by these changes. And I was able to contact 15 separate residents. All 15 residents are against this proposal. The community has spoken very loudly about their opposition on this. This is also one of Toronto's earliest neighborhoods, and these changes fundamentally alter the physical form of our community. The proposed homes facing Innis have already had one bylaw exemption for height. The site has already been granted other significant bylaw exceptions. Number one, the maximum permitted gross floor area has been increased from 8,500 square meters to 10,200 square meters. That's an increase of 20%. The minimum required side yard setback is supposed to be 1.38 meters. The development site has a yard setback of 1.25 meters, a decrease of 10%. The maximum permitted rear terrace height for parcel A is 2.3 meters. It has been approved to an increase of 3 meters. That is an increase of 30%. Not only has this project crept and grown in size, it also goes against the developer's own statement that it would maintain the physical form of the existing community. I would also like clarification whether the phase 1 buyers have been contacted and are aware of the design changes. These houses have not been built, they do not live in the neighborhood, it is not posted on the website, and I'm not sure if they are even aware of the changes. These are people who have paid well in excess of $1 million for their homes. Also, these changes and additions, beyond the additional 6 feet that goes against the bylaw, doesn't account for umbrellas, pergolas, and shades, or other things that go on top of rooftop patios that will increase the height of the house. These umbrellas, pergolas, and shades will result in increased loss of sun for existing residents, and it will also result in a loss of privacy in bedrooms for existing residents. I, for one, live at 227 McRoberts, so I'm on the corner of Innis and McRoberts, and so we will have a full-length, potentially 500 square foot patio staring directly into our bedroom. The designs do currently account for outdoor spaces. There is a balcony and a terrace. Those have also been approved for increased spaces. There is a park that the builder is building as part of these spaces. And the reason that these designs don't have more outdoor spaces is because that was how they were designed. As a community, we have presented a strong case against the proposed changes, and ultimately there is a weak case in favor of the proposed changes. We ask that you please consider these changes and deny the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions? Thank you. We go on now to...
Mr. Chair, the next speaker is Rachel Napel.
Okay,
Hello,
then.
thank you so much. I will defer to my husband, Siegfried Buehler, S-I-E-G, F as in Frank, R-I-E-D, last name B-U-H-L-E-R. We are at 225 McRoberts. I am in support of my fellow neighbors with their opposition to this variance request. My personal concerns about the impact on the neighbors and the neighborhood are the height of the building in comparison to the other houses, the loss of sunlight, the loss of privacy, and the increase of noise. So over to Siegfried.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Siegfried. You are shown as a registered speaker already, so go ahead, please.
Okay. All the concerns have been very eloquently addressed by Corey. and by Jean-Baptiste, so I defer to that, and I just want to show my support of their well-researched views. Thank you.
I've got a question for both of you, for either one of you, and that is, what would the impact, how would you feel this would impact you if this was permitted? You live nearby, how does it actually, how does it impact your enjoyment of your property, of the neighborhood?
Loss of sunlight. It would be an eyesore to have it would be like basically 4 stories high. Everything else is maximum 3 stories high in the neighborhood, and the loss of the view as well.
Okay, thank you.
And the noise. There will be an increase in noise.
Thanks very much. Okay, other questions,
Thank
panel? Any for these? No. Okay, and moderator.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the next speaker, Kyle Subica, I've tried to call him multiple times, but I'll try him one more, so we can move on. There is another speaker who had registered. It's Sandra Silva. I have her on the line.
Standby. Let's go to Sandra.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well, Sandra. Good afternoon. You're with the committee now. You have 5 minutes to address your concerns.
Good afternoon, thank you. I live at 8 Innis Avenue, directly across from the proposed project, where the height will be substantially higher on our end. I just want to say that it's going to impede greatly on our privacy. It's going to be looking at a gigantic brick, like a gigantic wall every time we look out our window. And the fact that they can potentially add pergolas to the top of it will directly impact us in a way that will not be pleasant to our community. And I've lived on Innis for well over 25 years. And the school that was there before is nowhere near as high as what they're proposing. And so I ask that the committee deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Sandra, panel? No. Okay. Okay, we'll go back now. I believe Sandra was the final speaker. You're trying, we'll just wait a moment while you try Kyle Subica one more time.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it doesn't look like Kyle is picking up.
Thanks, moderator. We'll go back to the, we'll go back now to the applicant. An applicant, what we've been hearing here from the speakers that we've been listening to, I think what I'm hearing from them, they're talking about concerns about privacy and sunlight, but those concerns arise from the fact that the development is very, very significant. All of a sudden, it's a large development within an existing community. Used to be a school. Now it's a very dense development that has an impact of really changing the neighborhood in a sense. It's, you know, we think within neighborhoods, moderate densification is being sought, and this, because it's single family homes, can be considered moderate, but because there's so many of them, it becomes a significant factor. It changes the neighborhood of the character of the neighborhood. So their privacy, their access to sunlight, somebody called it an eyesore because it will change the neighborhood so very, very dramatically. That's the concern I'm hearing from people. So they're saying, okay, we already know that it's going to go ahead, but to make it any higher, that's not desirable. It's not something we want to see happen. So they're saying enough is enough. Could you respond to those concerns, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all of the residents that provided comments on this application. I guess to address a few things, as you had said, the development is going forward. Council has approved the zoning bylaw amendment that is permitting the density and the built form that is here before you today is strictly a variance as it relates to the height, which, as we've demonstrated, is between 0.14 of a meter for the units, the most westerly units, and going to 0.87 above what's currently permissible on the easterly units. Those, because of the grade, that's why there's that variation there. In terms of shadow impacts, the overall height of the building would only be 12.57 meters. Given the right-of-way width, it is not high enough to cause shadow impacts on adjacent properties on the other sides of the street. As well, the only addition that would be at that height would be the small 86 square foot stairwell access. The rest around the perimeter of the property would be the parapet around the roof is the parapet area, which is within the current height limits permissible on the site. The developer has reduced ceiling heights in order to minimize, the impact of how high the buildings would be. There needs to be, unfortunately, a slight increase in order to allow the terrace units, but ultimately this does allow for additional space for these residents. And in terms of a privacy concern, we are dealing with front yard to front yard conditions, which is a bit different than the backyard to backyard component that's typically raised for privacy issues. I guess that would be my comments.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions for the applicant at this stage? Hearing none, we can take the application into committee and move toward a motion. So I'll look to panel members for some for their thoughts on this application, on what they've heard. Who'd like to begin? Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. It's always challenging when there's a new dense development in a neighborhood where there was something much more benign before. And I understand the concerns of the neighbors in relation to that. The variances before us are just for this rooftop deck and not to these rooftop decks and not to the entire proposal. And I think it's important to remember that. I think the placement of the staircase coming up being set back is a good way to mitigate any potential additional shadow issues from that. And I think having a meaningfully sized outdoor space for these relatively compact units is actually a positive thing for the future residents of this neighborhood coming in. So I'll be supporting this application.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next? Mr. Solomon, go ahead.
Yeah, I do have concerns with the proposal. To me, it looks like a 4-story building because of the height of the enclosure for the stairwell. And what you've got across the street, the existing condition, are 2-story homes. I also have concerns with the size of the overall rooftop terrace on the 4th floor. We've been dealing with decks on detached houses in the rear yard where we're concerned about privacy and overlook. And here, what's being proposed is an entire roof being turned over into a outdoor amenity space, playground, play area. Could be a large number of people on the roof, and I think that does create issues of privacy, noise, and I don't think that the proposal has dealt with that issue appropriately.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
This is a difficult one. I think that the development has been approved, the density and, you know, is certainly different than, you know, the activity level or the density that the school represented. It certainly is a compact development with lots of units. I do have, my concern is similar to my colleague Mr. Solomon's with respect to that the rooftop terrace is the total surface of the roof other than the angled bit. And, you know, I heard the concerns with respect to, you know, other structures that might be built on the rooftop, furniture and stuff. And I think it will read like a fourth story. It's unfortunate that when the original proposal was put in, that there wasn't more concern with respect to outside amenity space, but I think if there was some way to limit the terrace to the rear part of the property where they are proposing the privacy screens to protect the inner neighbors, I may feel differently, but the potential for the use and the structures and other things on the rooftop, I have concerns with that.
Thank you. And for my part, I do as well. Because of the number of units, this development really does alter and impact the character of the existing neighborhood. It kind of it changes the definition of the existing neighborhood and kind of becomes the new look of the neighborhood in many ways. So I can see why those who live right around the development are concerned about any additional height. And I'm persuaded by that argument that enough is enough. So I would also not be supporting the application. With that, I'll look to panel for a motion, please. Mr. Solomon, go ahead.
I'll put forward a motion to refuse the application.
It is moved by Mr. Solomon to refuse, seconded by Ms. Hayes. All those in favor of that motion, show of hands, please. Those in favor? Ms. Hayes now? Those in favor are okay. And those opposed to the application, show of hands. Okay, the application is opposed. Let the record show by Mr. Reed. So the motion is carried. The application is refused. And the panel moves on to number 38. Item number 38, which is 549 Indian Road. Panel has before it copy of draft plan of survey, applicant's materials, covering letters from the agent from 30 March and 25 August. There is a report from engineering and construction. There's correspondence in concern from Bell Canada, and there's opposition correspondence from 547 Indian Road, 553 Indian, 553 Indian once again, 1638 Bloor West, and 62 Edna Avenue. So, on this application, I'll ask the agent to join us now by stating his name, please.
I guess, well, we're in the evening now. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Andrew Colombo. I am the agent for 549 Indian Road. I'm an associate with MHPC Planning.
You are right. It is the evening now. We're after 6 p.m. Very good. Okay, Andrew. Yes. Andrew, you'll have 5 minutes to present your application to the committee. Please go ahead now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, well, firstly, so the subject lands that are proposed to be severed are to create 2 new lots. One lot will retain the existing 3-story, 5-unit dwelling as is, with no further modifications. And this is the current 549 Indian Road, which fronts onto Indian Road. And the other will provide a new lot, which will provide a 2.5-story detached dwelling that will actually front onto Edna Avenue. And again, this is a bit of a unique situation because the subject lands actually have a double frontage on both Indian Road and Edna Avenue. There's a lot of nuances and intricacies associated with this proposal, and I'll start to run through them for this committee. So to provide some quick background and context, earlier this year, we actually requested a formal pre-application consultation meeting with city staff to discuss the proposal, to understand any technical issues that the city's planning staff or other staff would have had with the application. And upon this request, it's actually deemed that a formal meeting wasn't necessary. Their only concern at the time was that the building height was being shown at 10.57 meters. They had asked for it to be reduced to 10 meters. That revision was made, and following that, a formal application for consent and minor variances were then submitted. While I do cover the rationale in extensive detail in the planning justification letter that was submitted with this application, I will just touch upon a few of the key reasons and high-level points why the committee should consider support of the proposed applications. So, as I already mentioned, the subject lands do have a double frontage on both Indian Road and Edna Avenue, and the actual site pretty much lands right in the middle. It's 200 meters from both the TTC Keel Station to the west and Dundas West Station to the east. So very close proximity, a direct proximity to transit, a stone's throw away. Literally, it's directly in the front yard. The subway line actually runs directly in front of the subject lands. Given that the existing dwelling on the subject lands plans to remain as is at 549 Edna, the resulting variances are more so technical in nature, and they're pretty much just a function of where the proposed lot line are for the subject lands moving forward. The new detached dwelling proposed along Edna will essentially replace a rear yard parking area on the subject lands. It'll also maintain the existing pattern of residential dwellings along the north side of Edna and serve to sort of fill in the missing teeth along this frontage, so to speak. Because if you look at the existing context, you'll see that there are a few properties that have rear yard parking areas, but there's also residential dwellings when you go east along Edna. So the resulting lots created from the proposed severance are consistent and in keeping with the existing lot areas and configurations in this neighborhood as well, and specifically in the immediate context. Figure 1 of the planning justification letter submitted shows that there are 9 nearby properties right in the immediate context, all of which are below the 180 square meter lot area or minimum lot area requirement, and they average around 127 square meters, these lots that are in the immediate area. Again, these also vary in configuration. This suggests that the proposed lot fabric is in keeping with the prevailing lot patterns in this area, with what's being considered for the separate new dwelling along Edna Avenue. Given the unique existing lot fabric in this area, and based just on the street layout of Edna and Indian as well, you'll see, and again also shown on figure 1 in the planning justification letter, there are some. It's very common for this area and the existing properties that are in this area. So this is nothing out of the ordinary, and again, this is when you look at this proposal, when you look at the fact that there is a rear yard variance for both, again, actually the part of the parcel to be retained as well as the new proposed severed parcel, the rear yard setback reduction also results in triangular side yards on each yard that'll basically function as the rear yard, because there's also a private outdoor amenity space in these side yards. There's good obscurity for views from the public street in each case, and again, understanding that because of the way the layout of the lot actually is, the side yards supplement the function of the rear yard in this specific case. It's very specific to this property in general. It's also understood that there's an FSI increase from 0.6 to 1.3 meters that's required to implement the new proposed dwelling. While this falls in the range of approved FSIs that we obtained through our research request for properties within 500 meters of the subject lands, this is mainly a function, like this increase to 1.3, it's a function of the new lot fabric and the new lot lines, because there, as I've stated as well in the planning justification letter, there are no built form variances for building height, main wall height, lot coverage, building length, or building depth, and that, in my opinion, suggests that the proposed separate dwelling is actually not representative of overdevelopment.
I'll ask you to make your final comment, please.
Overall, it is my opinion that the proposed applications optimize the use of the subject lands, meet the 4 tests for a minor variance under the Planning Act, and have regard for the consent criteria under the Planning Act as well, and represent good planning and should be approved by the committee, as again, this unique situation is one whereby a severance seems appropriate and one of the few ways to create new detached dwellings in the city of Toronto, given that typical subdivisions are no longer quite rare in the city, just generally speaking.
Thank you. Panel members, any questions for the applicant at this stage? Mr. Salmon, go ahead.
No, I'll wait till after. Thank you.
Okay. In that case, we'll move along to the registered speakers, and we'll ask the first one to join us by stating your name, please.
Hi, Ms. Peller, you are unmuted. Please refrain from unmuting and muting yourself. I will unmute you now. Hi, Ms. Peller, please refrain from unmuting yourself. I will unmute you on my end. I'm going to unmute you now if you can refrain from muting yourself. Ms. Peller, you are now unmuted if you are able to speak.
Hello?
If you have if you're unmuted on your end, you can unmute your mic. You can increase your microphone volume or make sure that your mic is plugged in. Through you, Mr. Chair, I think I can give them a call.
Okay.
We can move on to the next speaker.
Let's go to the next speaker then. Is that Teresa?
Yep.
We'll ask Teresa to join us by stating your name, please.
Hello, I'm Teresa Becker.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Good evening, and I want to say it's taken a long time for me to reach to you, but I have enjoyed the whole process, listening to everybody and their grievances. It was quite enjoyable.
Well, good. I'm glad it was enjoyable, and you now have your chance. This is 5 minutes of your opportunity to speak to the committee.
Okay, I want to say just to the person that spoke for this, what was he, their agent or somebody? What it was a babble of nonsense what he spoke. He has no idea what he was talking about. Anyways, here is my 2 cents. So, I am here today because I am concerned homeowner, and I am very opposed to all 3 variances. That news and the news of a plan to build a condo apartment in my backyard, and it is right next to my yard, garage, and home, blocking any room for sunlight or even walking space. And this is not a minor variance, and it has nothing to do with necessity for more housing. Please. I have lived in my home on Indian Road for over 50 years, and I have seen positive changes in the neighborhood. However, this is not one of them. This proposal is totally illogical. It has complete disregard for me as a homeowner and a neighbor. The disruption to my home and property will be detrimental. It will cause 24/7 noise, vibrations, property damage to the foundation of my house and garage and landscape. And also the air quality will be affected because they would have to break down the cement all around it, making my home no longer habitable. Now, who will reimburse me for all those repairs and damages caused by the construction, which will devalue my home and living space? The homes in this neighborhood are historic, and placing another apartment on a small piece of concrete, which is the driveway, it's not a missing piece as he said. The only sole purpose of theirs, in my opinion, is the result of pure greed. The value of my home will be affected, as I will no longer be able to live here, and if I choose to sell my home in the future, this will be a deterrent to buyers when they see a block of ugly concrete right at their doorstep. I have spoken to many concerned members of the community who are in disbelief. that a condo type house is proposed to be built on a small piece of driveway, creating chaos and havoc on Edna Avenue, which is already packed solid with cars from the apartment building that is on Bloor Street. And talk about parking, there'll be no parking because there'll be additional 10 tenants that will have no parking at all. Now, in my opposing email that I sent earlier, I asked if any of the panel could come and see this, what did I say? Adjustment committee responsible for making this decision was able to come out and view this driveway. And if they did, I am 100% certain that they would vote against these insane propositions. Please, I beg of you, do not give in to the pure greed of these owners. They have no conscience or respect for my neighborhood and community. And in closing, I would like to ask the owners of 549 Indian Road, what is your reason for this illogical proposal? Right now, you have a perfect income property. 5 apartments of varying sizes, generating a handsome income, and these 5 tenants have their driveway to park their cars. What more do you want? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any questions, panel, for the speaker? Otherwise, we shall move along to, well, we'll see if the moderator has been able to raise Alice Peller on the line. If not, we'll go to Elizabeth Amaranth.
Hi, Ms. Peller, you are unmuted on your call-in device, your phone.
Hello, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi.
You have 5
thank
minutes.
You. This is, thank you. My name is Alice Sang Peller. I live at 86 Edna Avenue, so I'm in the house right beside the proposed new dwelling.
Yes.
And we had not heard anything about this until we got the notice in our mailbox. So the owner of 549 Indian Road certainly did not consult anybody in the neighborhood about this proposal in advance. We are, being next door, I think we're going to be the most impacted. We have an outdoor deck on the northwest corner of our house that would be completely blocked if this new building were to go up on the driveway next door. So it would completely block our western sunlight. I'm concerned that they could look directly onto our deck, into our backyard, so we'd have a significant loss of privacy. So that's a main concern. We're also very concerned about any construction going on that could disrupt the flow of groundwater. We're in a very sensitive area. Our house has been flooded twice, just even with people building a garage in their backyard, behind us. That caused our house to flood twice. The apartment building that went up at Bloor and Indian Road a number of years ago caused significant changes in groundwater movement, and the parking lot at the TTC had to be completely redone. So certainly we're very concerned that if a new house construction goes on next door with such significant variances that it really encroaches our property, that we might be flooded or foundation damaged again. I also do want to acknowledge or repeat the fact that there'll be the significant loss of parking spaces, not only for the 5 apartment buildings that are currently in the existing structure, but with this new dwelling going on, I mean, it's hard to say whether it's going to be a single family home, but I wouldn't be surprised if it also became a multiple home dwelling. That already it's very difficult for people to find parking on our street because people will often choose to park there rather than pay in a parking lot. And certainly, there's already enough intensification going on in our neighborhood. As I mentioned, there's a big condo at Indian Road and Bloor. There's another one being proposed directly across the street on the other corner of Indian Road and Bloor, as well as two at Dundas West and Bloor. So there's lots of intensification going on. They certainly don't need to add another house, which, as Teresa said, is on just a driveway. And we've also spoken with all my neighbors on the surrounding, on our road and surrounding neighborhood, and everyone's totally shocked and against this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, panel? Okay. Moderator, do we have Elizabeth Amaran with us?
Yes, we do.
Elizabeth, please join us by stating your name.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Amaran. I live on 555 Indian Road.
And where is that in relation to the subject property, please?
So, not the next door neighbor, that's 553. That owner is in the process of selling his house. I'm on the other side of that.
Okay, I see where you are now.
Yeah, that's where I am.
You're 555? You're okay.
555.
You're sort of one house.
Yep, that's right.
I see now. Okay, thank you. Okay, you have 5 minutes to address the panel with your concerns. Please go ahead.
So even though I'm a little farther away, I'm still impacted by this move. It came as a shock, just like my neighbors, that we got a letter addressing this adjustment committee meeting. We obviously were not talked to before by the owner, that he had plans of building a building in the backyard. So that really does surprise us. There's same issues that everyone else would mention. There's a privacy issue, loss of sunlight, and light. I'd be looking at a two and a half stories. We'd all 553 and 555. We'd be just looking at concrete wall. We were already surrounded by houses. Our backyards are really close to each other. 86 and 84 have really tiny backyards. We put another house that there's no backyard really to speak of. So we'd even cut off more sunshine and light into my backyard. Issues of parking. Parking is always a huge hassle in this area. There's not a lot of driveways in the area. Street parking is at a premium, considering how close we are to the subway and to the condo buildings. Same issues. You're now taking away 4 spaces. They're going to build another property that's going to require more parking, because these people all have people who come over with cars. How are we going to fit all these cars in there? I don't think that the building that's going to go up is going to be adding to any rental supply that's significant, because clearly this man is going to build this house, or this limited corporation are just going to build houses that are going to be for luxury apartments. This is not going to help reduce, the shortage of rental housing out there, not significantly. I'm also concerned for 86 runoff. I understand that they've had flooding issues. It's on a slope, all of our houses. So my house runs into 553, runs into 549. If it's not, that driveway's not clear, it's going to back up into 86. Like, I am not surprised that she's very concerned about this issue. And certainly my garage did not help that issue at all. Loss of greenery. There was a huge tree in the corner of that property. You don't see it now. That was taken out. So it's, again, less greenery, more building. The space between the two houses, tiny, tiny. No one's concerned about fire risk here, because that's 2 big houses right beside each other, with other houses in a really close proximity. Other issues, missing teeth. If he was proposing a garage, I don't think too many people would have batted an eye. But he's proposing a 2.5-story home. That's big. That's really big. Like, we're not talking about a minor variance here. And that missing teeth, we all understand why it's a driveway. He wants to put in a garage. Put in a garage if he's worried about missing teeth in the back of his property. That side yard, it is really small. Like, you take that property down, we're looking at a really small little yard for how many units? That's ridiculous. And overdevelopment, 2 huge houses on 1 lot, that is definitely an overdevelopment. I don't see how this is a sensible idea, along with all the other we've been quite shocked by this. Overall, I think it's just greed. I agree with Teresa. I don't understand why they feel a need for this. They're not building a shelter for homeless women. This is not a community service here. It's just strictly to get a profit off a property that was expensive to begin with. And I think that's all I have to say.
Well, thank you. Panel members, any questions? No. Thank you very much to the speaker. Okay. We'll now go back to, I believe that's the last speaker? Okay. We'll now go back then to the applicant, who will have an opportunity to address some of the concerns raised in rebuttal. The concerns, there were some construction issues raised involving dust and vibration. Just for the information of those who spoke, construction issues are not within the purview of the Committee of Adjustment. Those would be things which you could rightfully take up with the construction people at the City of Toronto at such time as the project actually was getting going. But on the items that are before the Committee of Adjustment now, we heard about loss of sunlight. We heard about, there was concern about how the parking issue, which is already tight, what is the parking plan for the resulting two properties? And also there was a concern expressed regarding groundwater movement. So those are the issues that we'll ask the applicant to address. Applicant, you have 5 minutes to rebut. Go ahead now, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll try my best to remember all of the comments and objections in order, and the order that you just ran through. Feel free to remind me or anyone on the committee panel, just to in case there's anything I overlook. First and foremost, with respect to the flooding, all I can, from my experience, all I could speak to is that with all these applications, engineering and construction services are circulated, and if there were any of these known issues, they would have had that opportunity to provide that commentary through a staff report, and they would have had a chance to raise those concerns. So as far as I'm aware, there were not, again, with the report that they did provide, they just seemed to provide some standard consent conditions. They didn't mention any particularly about flooding. So I unfortunately, I can't, and I'm not an expert obviously in that respect, so I can't directly comment on that. All I know is that the city had that opportunity and did not mention anything of that nature. So I reserve my comments in that respect. Similarly to the parking situation, what I can confirm or what I can relay to this committee is that the owner has advised me, and this is the owner giving me the advice that currently, and this is the primarily the reason for this application in the first place is because the current rear yard that is supposed to function as a parking area is not fulfilling that intended purpose, and none of the current tenants, again, given the immediate proximity to two major TTC subway stations, none of the tenants currently use the subject site or the rear of the subject site for parking, which is, again, part of the reason why, if it's completely underutilized in that respect, and that's why this application is being put forth the way it is, and given that it does have a double frontage, and the created lots that result from the severance are very much in line and with the pattern of existing lots and lot fabric in this neighborhood. Again, figure 1 of the justification letter submitted covers that a little more clearly. But that's, again, the only reason this is being contemplated as why a severance is appropriate in this specific case. And that's one of the reasons, because we need a variance for that in order to implement the proposal. Again, along the lines of the parking, transportation services is circulated these applications as well. They would have had the opportunity to comment on issues with, I know there's on-street permit parking on Edna. There were no specific comments relayed in that respect. And one thing I can also say, though, in terms of pre-consultation, transportation services basically advised that in Ward 4, front yard parking applications are not permitted in Ward 14, and city planning even further said they would not support front yard parking for the new proposed dwelling along Edna. So that's, again, part of the reason why that appears the way it does, apart from the proximity to transit, the existing Green P to the west of Indian Road where it meets Edna, and on-street parking on Edna. So again,
let me
city staff.
Let me interrupt you for a moment, if I may, because this is key. what is the parking plan for the new structure that will front onto Edna? The parking plan within your proposal for that structure, will that
Well,
new
that's-
house?
There is zero parking being requested. That's one of the variances. One parking space is required. Zero parking is being proposed, and for pretty much the reasons I just outlined.
Okay.
With the
And
available
how-
on-street parking on Edna.
Okay. And how about the existing garage at the back, the stucco and block garage in the back of 549? What happens to that garage?
Again, I think, Mr. Chairman, that would be demolished, and that would make for, if you look at the plans, that's proposed side yard, it would be soft-scaped, and that would, again, it would function as the rear yard, because, again, just given the nature and the layout of the lot configuration, the only way you could put the dividing line is to limit the actual rear yards between the two properties, and then the resulting side yards would provide that sort of rear yard, private, open amenity space function.
Okay, so
that garage would be demolished.
Okay. And I'm going to give you extra time because I am cutting your time, but I just want to get this while we're on the topic. And so the parking plan for 549 going forward would be what? Street parking?
It's again, it's similar, again, given proximity to transit, the fact that there were no direct issues raised by city transportation services relative to on-street parking availability. Again, that opportunity would have been had by staff if they wanted to raise that as an issue, and it never came up, so we weren't able to address that as a problem, so to speak.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
And just very quickly, I know I understand that this is definitely something very new to the neighborhood. In terms of loss of sunlight, again, there is no height variance that's required to implement this proposal. Again, it's part of the, again, apart from just the numeric value of the actual FSI being requested, the built form variances that typically go along with an FSI increase, building length, building depth, building height, main wall height, lot coverage, there are no variances required to implement those. So basically what you end up with, instead of an underutilized rear parking area that has frontage on a public street, there's basically roughly 1,880 square foot modest 2.5-story detached dwelling that will result, and the variances, again, just speak for themselves in terms of what's required to actually implement that on the ground as a resulting built form on this piece of the property in question. That's all I can really speak to in terms of the actual impacts, because if there was a height variance, I would have to potentially look into what would maybe be the added shadow impacts. Again, this is a very dense neighborhood in terms of privacy. If you just go to your window, there's no rear yard decks proposed or anything like that, so it's like a typical just window condition in some of these inner city dense neighborhoods. And other than that, I really don't know what else to say in terms of loss of privacy, because it's a very common condition in neighborhoods like this to have houses that are close together. And again, there are no side yard variances required here as well.
Thank you. Panel, any questions for the applicant? No. Seeing none, then I think we can take the application into committee for discussion and moving toward a motion. So we are now in committee on this application. Who'd like to offer some comments? Ms. Hayes, why don't you go first, and Mr. Solomon?
Okay, I'll start. I think there likely is an opportunity to do something creative with this lot. However, I think that what is being proposed with respect to the small retained side yard for the existing property and the impacts of the built form of the 2.5-story property on 547, meaning that person would basically be on the east side surrounded by wall of both the property on Indian Road and the proposed house. I can't support the total package. I do think that there probably is an opportunity. I just don't think what is being proposed satisfies me that this as a totality is appropriate for either the retained parcel or the severed parcel, and from in terms of impact and the resulting built form, and I don't believe I can support the application in its current iteration.
Thank you very much. Mr. Solomon?
Yeah, I would agree with those comments, and I also have concerns with the parking, that zero parking is going to be provided. There's 5 units in the existing building, and we don't really know how many units will be in the new building, and so no tenant parking would be provided, and no visitor parking would be provided. And I haven't heard a good rationale from the applicant as to why no parking should be provided.
Thank you. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with both of my colleagues' comments, and I mean, in particular, I know the applicant was saying there's no height variance, no side yard variance, but there's a huge rear yard setback variance for both the retained portion and the new portion, and I think that's not okay. I think it's an overdevelopment of the site. I do agree with Joanne's comment that I think there is a design solution that could work on site. I mean, I think it would have to be something more like a laneway suite in terms of the relationship between the two buildings and retaining some kind of space between them. But right now, I think it's way too much.
And I share those views. And the fact that we're creating two new houses without any parking plan is of concern to me. So I'll look to someone for a motion, please. Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to refuse both the consent and the 2 variance applications, as I believe they do not meet the criteria under the Planning Act for either the severance or the 2 variances being proposed.
Is there a second to that motion? If there is, Mr. Reed. So it is moved and seconded to refuse the package of the consent and the related minor variance applications. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried by unanimous vote, and the consent and minor variance applications are refused. And with that, panel moves along to 134 Rockwell Ave, numbers 39A, B, C, and D. And on this application, we have before us a copy of draft plan of survey, applicant materials, 3 photographs submitted by the agent. We have staff reports from Engineering and Construction Services, from the Heritage Planner at Heritage Preservation Services, from Councillor Anna Bilau. There is opposition correspondence from 512A Old Weston Road, Francesca Pivetta. Plus, just recently received yesterday, there is email correspondence from Bell Canada, from the right-of-way associate of Bell Canada. So, let's ask the agent. Well, actually, at this stage, because we have a little way to go, panel has been back now for over 2.5 hours, so we are panel going to take a 10-minute recess, and we'll come back to finish off the agenda in 10 minutes at 6:45. 10-minute recess. Thank you. Okay, panel, we're on our way again. Back from recess, and we've introduced number 39, which is 134 Rockwell. The materials have been detailed. So we'll go now to the agent and have the agent join the panel. Agent, would you join us please by stating your name?
Hello, good evening, Chairman and committee members. My name is Eddie Perez. I'm here on behalf of the owner, and we're here at 537 Rogers Road. As you stated, we're proposing to sever the lot. We're maintaining the existing house at the front, and we're building two houses at the back, which face onto Old Weston Road.
Okay, Eddie, thank you. Just hold for a moment, please. And
Okay,
I'm going to check with Noelle Minoretto to see what her interest is in the project and in the application. So Noelle, if you'll join now, please, by stating your name.
Hi, nice to meet you all virtually. I am a resident on Rockwell Avenue. I am not on the block that the proposed, I guess, severance would be affected by. I am located at 104 Rockwell Avenue, and so I'm here to kind of just raise concerns as they pertain to the overall severing of the lot into multiple portions as part of the neighborhood.
Okay, fine. Very good then. So we're going to ask you to stand by while we go back to the agent, who is going to give us a quick overview of what is being proposed. So agent, Eddie, we're back to you now.
Yeah, hello again.
You have 5 minutes
I'll give you a slow
5 minutes to go ahead and present
rundown. Can you hear me?
I do hear you. Yes, you have 5 minutes.
Okay,
Go
yeah,
ahead,
right.
please.
Yeah, I'll give you a rundown of. We started this project about 1.5 years ago, and when we first started, we did 3 townhouses instead of being 2 fully detached. We went through planning and got their views on it, and they opposed that project. Then we presented them with 2 fully detached on bigger lots, and we went ongoing with them back and forth, and they approved on what we proposed, and they're okay with the project going forward. We also have talking to council, and council's also on our side with this proposal as well. And we feel that this project is good for the area. They're proposing Reunion Crossing are building urban townhouses about 100 meters away, which is similar to what we're proposing. And these houses are facing Old Western Road. They're not facing Rockwell, they're facing the main street. So we feel that this proposal is good for this area. It meets the 4 tests. That's my point for now.
Thank you very much. Panel members, questions for the agent? Not at this stage. Okay. Let's go then back to Noelle. And Noelle, you have 5 minutes now to present your concerns to the Committee of Adjustment. Go ahead, please.
My husband and I have been living in the area probably for about 5 years now and are well aware of all the development that's going on at the Old Western Road in St. Clair area. What we particularly take opposition to is the density and the actual split of the existing lot to the full 2 detached homes. I'm going to go through some numbers, so just bear with me. Right now, if we're going through all the application, everything that's being asked requires 10 variances from applicable zoning bylaws. Only 2 of those 10 variances meet the current standards for planning in place. The remaining 8 variances involve substantial exceedances. Key among those are a 140% increase to the maximum floor space index, a 79% reduction to the required rear yard setback, and a 35% increase to the permissible height of the front and rear main walls. Also, if you look at the plans that were submitted, you will see that both of these residences do not have any backyard. Instead, they are proposing a deck terrace area, and this is not in line with what we would see in other homes on the area. The two new lots also are impacted by lights that are going up at Old Weston Road and Rockwell. It's a new intersection that the city has installed traffic lights on. And because of that, all of the parking on the north, I want to say the northeast corner of Rockwell and Old Weston Road, those will no longer have street parking availabilities because of the lights that are being installed and have yet to been turned on. So while these do have parking pads, we're adding 2 additional structures and density in an area that is already plagued with high traffic, high development, and just in general, we're not really content with the proposal of 2 houses and its overall effect. It's also worth noting that they are 3 stories tall, which, as the owner representative have said, is you shouldn't be concerned about that because they're doing the same thing at Reunion Crossing. All the houses in this particular area north of Old Weston Road and Rockwell are all 2-story houses. There are no large 3-story houses that are going in. And of course, for individuals on adjacent properties, for the owners of 40 Chambers Avenue, for 132 Rockwell Avenue, while they may not be here and be present to speak, it's very unclear from the signage posted that they're actually divvying up this lot into 3, constructing 2 brand new 3-story homes. And that will have impacts on those owners and just in general for light, for density, for noise, for access. We want quality homes in this neighborhood that, do not come at the expense of green space and just general best practice standards for planning. I don't think I would take any issue to this if it was 1 home being proposed for this site, but the severance into, 2 existing lots and 2 existing 3-story homes, I feel is not in line with what this particular neighborhood location can support. At this juncture, I also find it shocking that Councillor Anna Bailao has said that there are minor variances associated with this application. There are not minor variances, there are quite large ones. And this is also coming from a councillor who doesn't engage or support with her residents in meaningful ways. So that's all I'm going to say about that. But, I'm just kind of at a loss to understand why the councillor and why the planning committees aren't supporting the creation of 1 parcel instead of 2, both based on site, depth from the lot borders and the 3 stories above ground that they are proposing. And that is it. That's all I have to say, really. This is my first time kind of doing it. We wouldn't have a problem with 1, not really thrilled about 2. So I would ask the application committee to deny the application for 2 existing houses on the property. Thank you.
Can't hear you, Bruce.
Thank you. We'll go back now to the agent. Are there any questions, first of all, panel, for that speaker? No. So we'll go back now to the agent, and the agent will have an opportunity to address some of the issues raised and do so in rebuttal. So, agent, what we've heard from the speaker is a level of concern about the division of the properties. The severance is not in keeping with the character of the neighborhood, that there'll be no backyards, green space, the deficiency in green space will detract from the neighborhood, that the minor variances required to make those, to make it work are too large. They're not minor variances. And that overall the density is an issue, height's an issue, both on the front and rear main walls, and things like rear yard setbacks are too small. So those are the issues we've heard brought up, and we'll ask you to for your comments on those, please.
houses with integrated garages, so it won't affect the parking whatsoever. Also, like I said earlier, 100 meters away, they're doing a development with urban townhouses, which are just the same height as ours, and even the density is even higher. Like I said earlier, we went through the whole process. We went through the planning. We did our dues, and we tried to put whatever the best project was for that lot there. And we came up with these two houses, which we feel are very nice design, and they're desirable for the area, and they will fit within the area because of all the new developments going on to the south. And also across the street, there was used to be a flea market. They're also going to be doing the same kind of development. And these face the main street, as I said earlier, which is Old Western Road. We're not on a side street where it would be a bigger impact. We're on a main street, which the impact would be very minimal, and it would be appropriate for the street. I feel that this project meets the four tests and is a good development for this land. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have questions for the agent? Seeing none, we'll take the application then into committee, and we'll be dealing with the consent plus the 3 minor variance applications as a package. So we'll take it into committee, and I'd appreciate your comments on the application as we move toward a motion, please. Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll just provide some initial comments. I think this is an appropriate form of intensification. It's a small scale intensification, just 2 additional detached houses, 3 stories, which I think the street can support the 3-story height, given that it is, you know, not a local road like the cross street is. And so I think that this is an appropriate form of intensification.
Thank you. Further comment? Mr. Reed, please.
Thanks. I agree with Nimrod. I mean, I think it is challenging because this is basically a very narrow lot, but I was reassured that this lotting pattern kind of exists further up Old Western Road as well, with longer lots on the block over to the east, and then shorter, narrower lots fronting Old Western. So I think it's a bit of a continuation of that pattern, and I think it's a good way of adding more houses and frankly making improving the situation on Old Western there. I think instead of having a fence in a backyard facing Old Western, you have a couple houses, and I think that's positive for the streetscape. So I'll be supporting this too.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes?
I will support the application. I have some concerns with respect to the setbacks and the lack of any outdoor amenity space. However, if this proceeds, whoever purchases that, will have to be their reality, because there will be no opportunity. I'm not really concerned about the height, given the immediate context of the neighborhood. You know, Old Western Road's a 4-lane road, so you're not the neighbors across the street. I don't think that height will impact, so I will support the applications.
Thank you. And with what I've heard and read about this, I do find that this represents a desirable way to go forward with respect to the subject land, so I will be supporting too. And I'll look to panel for a motion on the application, please. Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
So I'll move a motion to approve the consent and the variances, subject to conditions from heritage planning and engineering and construction services.
Very good.
And the standard consent conditions as well?
Yes, and the standard consent conditions, yes.
Thank you. Is there a second? There is. Mr. Reed seconds. So moved and seconded to approve the consent and 3 related minor variance applications, subject to those items as stated by Mr. Solomon. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And it is a unanimous vote to carry the motion and to so approve the application package. Thank you. With that, we move along to number 40 on our agenda. And number 40 is 662 Gladstone Ave. Here we have before us a copy of the minutes of the April 28th public hearing, 2021, and the material submitted for consideration. There's a copy of the plan of survey, a revised site plan, plus other materials submitted by the applicant, and a covering letter from the agent. There is opposition correspondence in the form of 1 letter from 660 Gladstone Avenue from Robin Koch. And we also have presentation material submitted recently on the 26th of August from the agent, just 4 or 5 days ago. Okay, then we'll ask the agent to join us, please, by just stating your name.
Hello, hello, Mr. Chairman and committee members. I'm Xu Dongtang, here to represent the owner of 662 Gladstone Avenue.
Very good. Good evening to you. Okay. Panel members, do you wish a presentation on this application, or do you have questions to put directly to Mr. Yes, questions? Go ahead, Mr. Salomon first, Ms. Hayes second.
Yeah, my question is, what has changed from this current proposal to what was before the committee a few months ago?
It becomes smaller. Now it only has 6 meter long and 2-story addition. My previous one is longer than this.
Has there not also been a change with respect to soft landscaping?
Now the landscaping, soft landscaping is 28%, but
And before it was only 8%, isn't that correct?
yeah.
So that's an improvement on soft landscaping.
Yeah.
Has there been any consultation with the with neighbors during this time? Applicant?
Yeah. Do I need to do the presentation?
Yes. Has there been? Have you done any consultation with neighbors in the town?
Only one neighbors who reject this is 660, and I'd like to hear what he say and answer his question.
Yes, well, yeah, the neighbor's not going to be speaking tonight. I think what we heard from the person at 660 in that letter that was sent in was concern about overlook, loss of sunlight. So have you done anything?
Mr. Chair, I have a question of the applicant.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes.
Just a question, and maybe it's just because you haven't updated the interior plans, but like on the proposed ground floor and proposed second floor, I don't, like on the main floor, where's the entrance to the new bedroom? There's a the bathroom's there showing existing bathroom. but then there's no bathroom on the, other than in the master bedroom, or the proposed new bedroom on the second floor. So I couldn't understand, the flow. I know we're not dealing with interiors, but I just wanna make sure I understand how, like that back bedroom, that's gonna be connected to the main part of the house, is it not?
I beg your pardon?
On the proposed ground floor, on your drawing A6.
Yeah, proposed ground floor.
Yeah, so how's that new bedroom accessing the rest of the house? I don't see I don't see on the drawing. And as I'm saying, maybe you just didn't update the other part of the house, but I just can't kind of see where they're getting in. Like how are the two connected?
They doesn't connect, because it goes, the entrance is the deck.
So it's a standalone bedroom?
Yeah.
So it's not, okay,
but it's only for one family.
So, but it's just a bedroom and a bathroom?
Yeah.
So where's the kitchen?
Kitchen is on the ground floor, is the existing building.
So, okay, so if they're using the new bedroom, how do they get to the kitchen? I mean, this might be too much detail. I'm trying.
That's what the owner wants. They just want to divide this, but it's only for one unit, one family.
I just don't understand the flow. Yeah. It doesn't seem to be any ability like that. There's nothing. I don't understand how it's designed that way. Regardless of, I just don't understand the use in connection with the house that we're being asked to consider as a whole context. But okay, and the same thing with this. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I can answer the sunlight question for the 60 neighbors. So, do I have my presentation material? Yeah, the page 3. Page 2. So it is only a 6 meter long and a 2-story addition, and if you look at the page 3, yeah, we have many larger and longer neighbors in this community, and our south neighbor is in the south, and they naturally have more sunlight, especially during winter time, and I don't think it's going to be a problem for sunlight.
Okay, I have a question for you, coming back to that rear bedroom. That rear bedroom appears to be a secondary suite that doesn't have a kitchen. It doesn't have a kitchen sink. It only has a bathroom, but it doesn't have a kitchen sink. It has no kitchen plumbing or space for kitchen basic appliances. So is that secondary, that rear bedroom, is that a secondary suite?
No, there's only one unit, and because they can walk out and it's connected. It's not connected on this floor, and the whole building is connected, so they can share the kitchen.
Okay, my question then is, the person living or sleeping in that bedroom at the back, does that person have to go outside And
Yeah.
go around to the front door to get into the kitchen?
Yes, yes. And this is the owner request, and this is the building code. But the layout issue is not about the minor variance. If you think this is going to be a problem, we can fix this.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you said.
So this layout is based on the owner's idea. And this is one unit, only one family. So yeah, the owner wants the layout, so we design like this, and they will share the kitchen by using the using the ground floor. They just walk out to the building and go to the kitchen. Yes.
Okay, so there's only one secondary suite then in the basement, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant panel?
Again, it's just the owner wants to have more rooms and to improve their life quality. And there are many larger houses in this community, even bigger than this. So I think this minor variance is nature, reasonable, and acceptable. Thank you.
Okay, panel.
Are we in committee now?
I think we should take I think we should take the application into committee now and discuss it and move toward a motion, please. Yes, we're in committee. Have to go ahead, Mr. Solomon? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I do not understand this application. I think the plans are poorly thought out, and it is not clear that what the purpose of the application is not reflected accurately on the plans, and so I could not support this application.
Thank you. Ms. Hayes? Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
I would mirror that, because even if you look at the proposed basement layout, that proposed playroom with a bathroom is not connected to the other part of the house and would have to be accessed by the back stairwell from the backyard. And I'm very confused with respect to the application. And on that basis, in terms of what the purpose is, and on that basis, I can't support it.
Mr. Reed?
I agree. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to figure this out, and I still can't wrap my head around it. And I mean, it looks on its surface as like a rooming house, I think, but without the proper due diligence. So I can't support it in its current form either, even though I appreciate that the applicant made changes since their last deferral request, but I think there are too many unanswered questions.
And I agree with you all on that. I can't support what I'm looking at there and can't make any sense of it. It appears to me that we would be approving a secondary suite there with that rear bedroom that didn't have any kitchen facility included in it. So I'll look to panel members for a motion, please.
Yeah, I'll move a refusal of the application.
Is there a second to that? There is. Ms. Hayes, it is moved and seconded to refuse the application. All those in favor of that motion, show of hands, please. And the unanimous vote carries the motion, and the application is refused. And that moves the panel along to 167 Salmon Ave. And on 167 Salmon, we have before us copy of minutes from the May 18 public hearing, applicant materials, 4 photographs submitted by the agent. There is correspondence in support from Fabi Messina, no address, Anita Mazik, 169 Salmon, and a form letter in support signed by occupants of 165. In opposition, there is correspondence from 153 Salmon, received on June the 9th from James Christie. And we'll now have the applicant join us by stating your name, please.
Eden Himmel, I'm the representative for 167 Salmon Avenue, brother of the owner.
Very good. Good evening. I'm going to check with panel. Panel questions for this applicant or presentation requested? No, Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
Just a clarification question. So you aren't requesting any parking on site any longer, am I correct? To address the concerns outlined by the planning department on the initial application?
No, you are correct, but we included the parking inside the house, which is like a garage right now. So by doing that, we actually lost significant amount of space inside the house. As I said, sorry, no, I haven't said it.
Oh, sorry about that. I missed that.
No, that's fine. And we worked with the neighbors, and the other objection letter that the chairman was referring to, I think that was before July 9th when the revised zoning certificate was submitted. So it was the previous concern with the previous design. So we changed the design significantly, and with extension and addition on top. And it's still less than 2,000 square footage. I don't think we are going above and beyond anything significant at this moment.
So you addressed their front landscaping concern as well then?
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
And it's a fairly narrow lot. It's like 20 lots. There's certain things I could do, or we could do, and it's just for my brother, and he's a person with disability, and my parents are the primary caregivers, and we just wanted to make sure that it satisfies our needs, not to, you know, like other developers that try to build like 3,000 square footage house in 25 lots or something. We're just trying to assess our needs and fulfill our requirements. That's pretty much it.
Is there any other integral garages on Salmon?
Yeah, many actually.
Okay.
Yeah, 182, 184. No, sorry, not 182. 181 and 183. I assume. If you just Google it, you will see it. Actually, the first time when we got refused, I was a little surprised because back in May, the city actually approved a parking pad in the area, but in our application they were opposing it. So I was a little bit confused with that notion. But anyway, I'm not here to point fingers. As long as everybody's satisfied, we're satisfied. We are trying to live in peace. If you still want me to go to the variances, I'm more than happy to do
that. Bruce, we don't hear you.
Pardon me. Pardon me. No, there's no request, applicant, for a presentation. And I'll just ask, are there any further questions of the applicant? No, there are no further questions. So I shall look to panel for a motion, please. Ms. Hayes.
Okay, I'll start. I think that the revisions made by the applicant have gone a long way to making this application more desirable. There's a lot of different, I'm very familiar with this neighborhood. There's a lot of different built forms here. The parking issue, there are many parking in front of buildings and some front pads. So, and there are a couple of houses that do have integral garages. I think that I could support this. I would be in support of this application, and if my colleagues have no further comment, I'd be prepared to move a motion to approve the application with no conditions.
Second to that motion? It is seconded. Mr. Reed. Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded to approve. Those in favor, show of hands, please. And it is a unanimous vote to carry the motion and approve the application. Thank you. And panel moves now to our final agenda item for the day and the evening, which is 11 Hutton Avenue, number 42. And on number 42, we have before us copy of the minutes from the August 4th public hearing, copy of plan of survey, a revised site plan, and other material submitted by the applicant, and there is a staff report from Urban Forestry. So, with that, we'll ask the applicant to join us, please, and by stating your name.
Good evening, Mr. Chair and members of committee. My name is Hamid Imami, and I'm the owner of the property at 11 Hutton Avenue.
Okay, fine. And I want to just check with the moderator. We also have Stephanie Laycock. Do we know what her interest is in the application?
I have Stephanie Laycock on the line. I do not know what her position is.
Okay. I'll ask the owner to stand by for a moment while I go to Stephanie. Stephanie, please join us by stating your name.
Hi, Ms. Laycock, you are unmuted if you're able to speak. Stephanie, if you can turn up your microphone volume. We aren't able to hear you. I can try giving her a call again.
Please, if you do that. Yes, we need to have an idea what her interest is.
Mr. Chair, it seems that Stephanie is not answering.
Okay. Yeah. Okay then. We'll go back to the owner and owner. Thank you for your patience, sir. I'm just going to check now with my colleagues. Panel members, do we have any questions for the applicant here, or would you like a presentation? No? No questions, no request for presentation? In that case, we can move on to a motion if someone is ready. Mr. Reed, go ahead.
I'm happy to bring a motion for approval. I think that the variances being requested are quite minor, and the footprint of the house is only expanding slightly beyond the existing footprint. And I don't think this is a departure from other houses in the area. And read individually and as a whole, I interpret the variance as being requested as minor. So I move to approve subject to urban forestry condition 3.
Very good. That is seconded by Ms. Hayes. So it is moved and seconded to approve subject to forestry. All those in favor, show of hands, please. And that motion is carried. The application is approved, subject to forestry. So.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Okay, then may I say it, so that does conclude our agenda for the day. I want to thank and congratulate the panel, as always, for sifting through a mountain of detail today and in the days preceding today, and to staff members for the great support on the materials and the people on the phone and the guidance when we needed it. So thank you, everybody. With that, this meeting or this hearing of the Committee of Adjustment is terminated. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see everybody again.
And you.
You too. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.